Well, thank you everyone for joining us again. It's Nicholas Smith and Christian here. Um, we're just doing a follow-up from yesterday's webinar, the fundamentals of cybersecurity and staying safe online. We were inundated with questions yesterday, so we thought we would just summarize some of the questions and have a one-on-one session and provide answers so that everyone can get a good understanding of the areas and the big topics that people are really asking at the moment. So I'm here with our cybersecurity expert, Christian. Thank you for joining me again today.
All right, thank you.
So the first question, so when changing passwords, on email and other accounts, etc., can this be tracked by a hacker?
So short answer is yes. If you have a system that's been compromised, most definitely, if you change your password and say you have a keylogger installed on your machine, it wouldn't matter whether you changed your password or not, if you're still entering keystrokes, and that's obviously being sent to the attacker. So yes. The other thing that I will make note of is if you have email that's been compromised, it's likely that even if you do change the password, they'll know about the fact that you've changed the password, and they might try to phish you again. But on that note, something I didn't cover yesterday, and I think it's really important, is that when it comes to emails and passwords, never send out passwords over email. Or if you're going to send like a user account or something, maybe send a user by email and then text the password to that person. That way, the two are not together. That's one thing that I didn't add yesterday, but I think is handy. But yeah, to answer your question, yes, most definitely. If your system's compromised, then yeah, changing your password will not help in that way.
Great. So one of our clients uses AVG free at home. Is this a good product to use, and are there better alternatives?
Look, I'm always going to say that having an antivirus is better than not having an antivirus. I do think that the free antiviruses are limited in the amount of features that it has, and I would always opt to pay the extra money to get a free to get a paid antivirus solution for home. Most definitely, I think any antivirus is going to help you. I do recommend our antivirus WebRoot. It's been tried and tested, over a whole bunch of machines. We probably have more than 2,000 machines that run WebRoot at the moment, and it's been pretty solid for us. So I would recommend that product, to be honest.
Okay, perfect. So one of our clients asked, I currently receive a lot of quarantine emails, so a lot of spam emails, which probably means that the email address is circulated widely on lists. So would you suggest changing the official email address, or is there anything they can do to stop this?
Yeah, so a couple of things. Firstly, if you're getting emails from the same sources, we can block those particular sources from sending you emails anymore. We just put them on a blacklist, and the system, if you have an anti-spam system, that is, the system will then automatically flag that and say, yeah, no, that's straight away junk. Changing your email address is going to be a tough one because obviously you have clients that are probably reaching you through those emails and have that email address under their contact list on Outlook, for example. So you'll probably have to reach out to them and let them know. And on top of that, what happens to your old email address then? So what happens if you're getting other people sending email from that? So we have to obviously try to figure out a way to migrate your emails, or at least forward those emails to you. So in essence, you're kind of going to have the same problem. And not to mention that if you're someone who is high up in an organization, you're more likely to receive unsolicited mail. So even if you did change your email address, chances are that over a period of time, the same problem will pop up again. So it's a tough one. My recommendation is if you do have anti-spam, that you look at the quarantine emails and see who's sending you those emails, and then basically blacklist them or ask us to help you blacklist them so that you don't keep getting those. And over time, you'll probably block a lot of those emails.
Oh, perfect. So, Christian, what's your opinion of WhatsApp? And this person has asked specifically because they say they have had many breaches over the years.
I mean, like any platform, WhatsApp, which is Facebook owned, I believe, is prone to being breached. It depends on what you're messaging with and whether it's to do personal messaging or whether it's over business. I assume that you're referring to business, but I'll cover both. With business, I wouldn't recommend WhatsApp as a product for business communication. There are far better messaging platforms out there, and some that even come free with your Office 365 or Office license. For example, Teams, which is actually what we use internally here at Netway to communicate with one another. So I would probably recommend that for business communication. In terms of personal, it just depends on your level of privacy. Obviously, using any sort of service, that service provider is going to be able to have access to those messages. If you're looking for a privacy point of view and with regards to messaging, then I would recommend something like Signal, which is a third-party encrypted messaging service that you can use. But yeah, using up WhatsApp, it's up to you really. It's probably okay for personal use.
Okay. So, Christian, you briefly touched on yesterday the password manager's LastPass and Dashlane.
Yep.
So, can you just go into a little bit more detail? How secure are they, and can they be compromised?
Anything can be compromised. So it doesn't matter whether you have a system that's $1 million system. There's always some sort of exploit or some way that someone's going to find around it. The main difference being that having a password manager versus not having a password manager is weighing up the risk of using the same passwords across multiple things and not. With LastPass and Dashlane, they have a master password, which is what you use to log into the service and start using the service. And that can have multi-factor authentication or 2FA, where it sends a code to your mobile device or an email to make sure that you're the right person who's trying to access that information. So yeah, in terms of vulnerability, yeah, most definitely anything can get hacked. But when you're looking at having something that in place that's going to reduce the risk or provide risk reduction to whatever current system you're using, which is memorizing passwords or using the same passwords that you always use, then yeah, most definitely it's a better option out there than not having that.
So, there's a lot of reputable websites out there, e-commerce websites such as Kogan, Catch, any kind of Telstra banking website. Do you think it's a good idea? And this obviously is a bit of a habit of everyone to save their credit cards on this website to save them time. Is this a good idea? Is it secure? Can my credit card details be compromised?
Look, it depends if it's a phishing attack or whether it's a legitimate. Assuming it is legitimate, a lot of websites now use the HTTPS protocol as opposed to HTTP. HTTP was basically the web protocol that allows you to interact with a website, but it wasn't encrypted. Whereas with HTTPS, it is encrypted and it has to go through a third-party certifier to say, yeah, this is a legitimate website. Now, when you go onto a HTTPS website, the traffic between what you're doing and our website is encrypted. So as long as it's HTTPS, and you can see that you'll know when it's not, because Google Chrome or Internet Explorer or any other internet browsers will tell you that this site is not secure. Do you want to proceed or not? Yeah, with those secure sites, it should be fine. That being said, if you are paranoid about that, there are services like PayPal that you can use to basically withdraw or direct debit from your bank account to that PayPal account, and then you can use that to pay for your transactions for online shopping and whatnot. So PayPal can act as like the middleman, protecting your credit card info and still being able to basically buy things online.
Okay. So the next question, and we all know this as one of the age-old kind of myths out there, are Macs really immune to viruses and our smartphones, such as iPhones?
No. So Macs can get viruses as well as Apple PCs. I think the main difference is that Microsoft used to be more, or is more targeted because it has a larger market share in the industry than Apple does. That being so, a lot of people who make viruses focus purely on Microsoft, but there are viruses out there for Macs, like keyloggers and malware and whatnot, and you can get antivirus for Mac as well. That being said, the same thing goes with phones. But Apple does have some securities in place, especially when it comes to their App Store, as well as, the App Store on their Macs as well as on their phones. So if you're downloading from the App Store, it's 100% secure from Apple because Apple's done the checks to make sure that those applications are credible and not doing any harm. That being said, if you do have a Mac, there is an option that you can turn off to say, well, if it doesn't matter whether this is coming from Apple or not. If you have that enabled, or disabled, I should say, you can download from third-party publishers, and if you do that, then you run the risk of potentially opening yourself up to a threat. So yes, you can get viruses and you can get keyloggers and malware on your Apple devices.
Now, the next question, Christian, came from one of our clients again. My staff use a lot of websites that require login credentials. So some of our work login credentials, like Xero, like our website, some of our accounting software, it's all online. And all my staff are signing into these accounts, and they probably all use their own Chrome account. So you mentioned Bit passwords before. What should I be doing if they are saving the passwords in their keychain and potentially taking them home?
So what I'd recommend is give us a call and we'll set up a policy on your internet browsers to not store any sort of passwords onto the Chrome browser's password management tool. Because Chrome does have built-in password management, it also has built-in Google Pay. So if you've entered a credit card on your to buy something, Google will ask you if you want to keep that card on record. And then that way, next time you purchase something, it fills out all those details for you. I would recommend turning off those two features for business PCs. Thirdly, I would suggest getting a password manager. If someone's already done that in terms of they have been using their Google account to save passwords from the business services, then if you implement something like LastPass and we set up all of those services for you, then we can just change the passwords and that will basically be done with what they have. They can't really update it from that point on.
Perfect. And lucky last, if I'm attacked by ransomware, should I pay the ransom?
No. I would never basically condone paying a ransom. The reason being is because there are ways that we may be able to recover your data, or at least most of the data. If you have backup solutions, by all means, that's the first go. That's what we should turn to. And I would recommend that if you don't have a backup solution at the moment, or an offsite backup solution, to contact us and we can give you some advice and help on that. But yeah, if you're in a situation where you've basically have no backups, you have no copies of the data in any sort of drive or any local documents or anything like that, and you really need that for your business to survive, then I would say, okay, fair enough. But just keep in mind that there is no guarantee that you're going to get your data back even when you do pay the ransom. There are some ransomware viruses that come out that don't actually have legitimate recovery. One that recently, well, I say recent, it's a while now, but there was a ransomware called WannaCry, which infected a lot of hospitals and a lot of medical centers, and London's NHS got hit pretty hard with it. But basically, what that did was it actually took an exploit of Windows XP machines, which were end of life, which means basically Microsoft stops making security patches for them. So what would happen is some attackers figured out a way to bypass some of the operating systems backdoors, and they managed to install this WannaCry virus, which spread across a whole bunch of people's machines in hospitals and medical centers and imaging systems and whatnot, and encrypted all of the data on the network completely. It cost the NHS around $150 million in damages just on that. But it came with a ransom note saying if you pay X amount, you will, we'll recover your files. But there was no actual recovery. They didn't have a recovery key. They just were basically out to do as much damage as possible. So all these people who paid the ransom and got, in order to try and recover the stuff, actually didn't get any recovery. They just they got hit twice basically. Yeah, it's a tough one because the other thing you have to consider is if you do pay a ransom, then you're more likely to get targeted again because attackers can see that it was a success the first time. Why wouldn't you want to do it again? So I would always advise that be like the very last ditch effort. If you've tried everything else, then okay, yeah, fair enough. But it is a risk, and as long as you're aware of that risk.
Yeah, perfect. Look, those were the main questions that were asked on the day, and hopefully that fielded everyone's questions with Christian's answers. And if you have any further questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to us. All the contact details are on our website, netwaynetworks.com.au. And if you have any further questions or you'd like to address anything that we talked about yesterday, you'd like any kind of IT assistance with your business, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you very much for your time, Christian. I really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for tuning in.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you, guys.